The rules of the Hunger Games are simple. In punishment for the bloody revolution, each of the 6 food groups must offer up 1 girl and 1 boy, called fooditariates, to participate. The 12 fooditariates will be imprisoned in a colossal cornucopia that could hold anything from a burning desert to a frozen wasteland. Over a period of several weeks, the fooditariates must survive the great feast of Thanksgiving. The last fooditariat standing wins, and he or she will be honorably chosen to be eaten by he himself, President Snowheim.
Welcome to the 395th Annual Hungry Games. Before we introduce our new fooditarians for this year, we have a very big surprise for you. Special guests will be joining us tonight from the 394th Games to share and reflect last year's feast. Are you ready? Everybody welcome Fatness Everchange, Peter Actionist, and Kale Marks. We will also hear remarks from our very own President Snowheim. Let's begin. Hello, Fatness. So tell me, how and why does bounded rationality impact decision-making in the games?
Bounded rationality is the notion that a behavior can violate a rational precept or fail to conform to a norm of ideal rationality, but be consistent with the pursuit of an appropriate set of goals or objectives. In the games, I decided to end my life with PETA by eating the berries. My rational choice of whether to kill PETA, the one I love, or to die together was a simple and rational decision, because there was a bigger cost on one than the other. Either I would die with PETA or one of us had to kill each other, and obviously we were too in love for that. Simon created the bounded rationality model to explain why limits exist to how rational a decision maker can actually be within a decision-making environment. There exist specific constraints that force a decision maker to be less than rational. I had to work under 2 unavoidable constraints. First, only limited, often unreliable information is available regarding possible alternatives and their consequences. In this case, I died or he died. And second, I only had a limited amount of time available to make a decision, or else the bourgeoisie would have done something themselves to end it. The problem of bounded rationality is that there are limits on the capacity of the individual to maximize their own benefits. We almost never have reliable information. We do not have infinite power to make choices, and most things we make decisions about are not strictly comparable. The solution is satisfactory. Rather than fully maximizing in all areas, a rational self sets satisfactory levels and only focuses on the fixing areas that are least satisfactory. Therefore, even I, who intend to make rational choices, was bound to make satisficing choices in complex situations rather than maximizing or optimizing. I was rationalizing and figuring out my costs and benefits in the situation and came up with this great plan of both of us dying. The cost, we would both die and live for that legacy, or the benefit, gamble to see whether the bourgeoisie choke, and for both of us to live as victors. That showed them.
Great, great. I have another question for you. How and why does selective incentives impact free riding, as Olson has explained?
Free riding is when rational, self-interested individuals calculate their own advantages and access collective goods. Collective goods are goods all members have access to. They're usually not rational to contribute to a group that produces a shared work. It is a more rational choice to let others do the work while one free rides upon the results. I didn't want to say this in front of the group to avoid hurt feelings, but I was relieved when Mags was left behind. I mean, come on, she was 80 years old and we had to carry her around, which says a lot because she was like 5 pounds. I knew she was just reaping the benefits of everyone else pulling her weight in the group. She was selfish and let all the others do the work for her. I had more costs expending from her than I would ever have gotten benefits. The solution to this was selective incentives. There are rewards and or punishments imposed on individuals within the group to motivate them personally to work towards group interests. Mags was slowing us down from running for our lives in the games and did not provide enough support, and we weren't able to enjoy all the benefits that the other people in the group provided. So I made the rational choice of kicking her out of the group. Of course she died because of me, but there are more benefits to this since we would get the amount of shared work we all deserved.
Now, let's welcome Peter Actionist. Peter Actionist, many times your skills throughout the games have surprised us. Tell me, how has your deviance been impacted by others labeling you like Howard Becker has explained?
Well, at the beginning of the games, I didn't think of myself as much of a deviant person. I had a healthy, conforming self-concept. There are 2 forms of deviance, primary and secondary. Primary deviance is the initial time that a person commits a deviant act. It is usually a mistake or done unknowingly. Secondary deviance is when a person purposely commits a deviant act. The first act of primary deviance that I committed was when I was little. My parents burnt some food at our bakery. I was supposed to give it to the pigs, but when I came outside, I saw Fatness and she was starving, so I gave it to her instead. My parents scolded me for it, and through that interaction, I had a deviant label attached to me. According to the labeling theory, the self-concept of an individual is determined by the labels that are attached to them. Powerful individuals within society typically impose the most significant labels for people under them to become of their words. My exposure to this deviance and my parents' influential scolding stuck with me.
Is there a time in the games when you started committing secondary deviance?
Throughout the games, my mentor George Herbert Mead helped me to realize through social interaction that I belonged more with those who were deviant against the bourgeoisie. Those who have a negative label put on them usually have a lower self-image and are more likely to reject themselves and may even act more deviantly as a result of the label. I was very vulnerable at the time of labeling that I started to be deviant on purpose as a symbol to the bourgeoisie that I won't conform to their behaviors and values. The more they exposed me to being a person of deviance, the more I started to believe them. I then found meaning to this subject and made sense of who I was at the moment. I'm a bad pita bread, and I like it.
Pedirectionist, you have had your fair share of experiences with the games. Can you tell me about a time when Asperger and Lugman would say your reality was socially constructed?
Well, when I was captured by the bourgeoisie, my reality was changed through externalization, objectivation, and internalization. Externalization is the ongoing outpour of the human being into the world, both in the physical and mental activity. It is a process where a man creates his socially constructed world by making a claim about human nature. People by their nature make things and put them into the world. The process of objectivation involves the attainment by the product of what was created of a reality that confronts its original makers. It is through objectivation that society becomes a reality sui generis, which means self-made. Internalization is reappropriation by man of the reality that has created and objectified. We transform the structure of the objective world into the structure of this subjective consciousness. It is through internalization that the individual becomes a product of society. This shapes and determines who we are through this interaction with the world. The bourgeoisie was the only source of social interaction I had, and they changed my reality. Before the bourgeoisie abducted me, I was a part of the resistance against them, but through their interactions with me, they created a new reality where I loved the bourgeoisie and hated the resistance. They did this by brainwashing me with different objects and ideas. The more I was exposed to their brainwashing techniques, the more I started to see what they were saying as my reality. Over time, I internalized these new concepts, and they became part of who I was.
From our very own President Snowheim. How and why does division of labor impact the type of social solidarity?
The division of labor is beneficial for Foodtopia because it increases the reproductive capacity, the skill of the workmen, and it creates a feeling of solidarity between people. The division of labor goes beyond economic interests. It also establishes social and moral order within a society, which is very much needed because this helps the society function as a whole. By creating 6 food groups to divide the labor, every food group has their own speciality that focuses on one job by dividing and conquering. Social solidarity is how society holds together and what ties the individual to the society. Durkheim, my great-grandfather, argued that societies move from mechanical to organic solidarity through the division of labor. Mechanical solidarity characterizes earlier or traditional societies where the division of labor is relatively limited. Organic solidarity is the form of social solidarity in modern societies, with a highly developed division of labor. In both types of societies, individuals, for the most part, interact in accordance with their obligations to others and to society as a whole. Because of the divided labor within Foodtopia, we are able to accomplish all the function that this society needs. Social morality, in this sense, is strictly necessary for solidarity between people to occur. Without morality, societies cannot exist. That is why I did my best to turn this small land into an organic solidarity, which we all need one another to gain resources and to grow even more.
You are truly amazing, Snowheim. You also mentioned inequality. How and why does inequality produce stability and solidarity in Foodtopia?
Davis and Moore explained that the only way for us to have peace is for all to be placed in different food groups. We have to look at the different social groups such as race, class, gender, food types, and religion. No society is classless or unstratified. To explain in functional terms, it is a universal necessity, which calls forth stratification in any social system. For us to live in peace, we all need to be gathered and placed where we can make a difference. Our society is like a big machine. Everyone does their own part to make the machine function as a whole. Now, some might say this is unfair. On the contrary, nothing in society can be equal at all times. There must be inequality, or else there is no society. Take the machine as a human body. Everybody needs the brain, the arms, the lungs, and more. But if the lungs want to be the brain, all of a sudden the arms want to be the legs. An individual would be brain dead and would not function at all. Us as the bourgeoisie hold the highest positions in society because we have the greatest importance for the society and we have the greatest training or talent. We have the right leaders that help this work for all food groups. Power and control is the only way for everyone to stay where they belong. This system is necessary to have because people who are high up on the social ladder have different skills that are more important for society, like me. We have the Hungry Games to remind us that inequality is needed for people to not revolt against this beautiful society and repeat the dark days. Everybody has their set job and set rank in Foodtopia, which creates solidarity and gives us peace. The same peace that we have been enjoying for the past 394 years. Am I right?
Welcome, Kale. Tell me, from the philosophy of your uncles Marx and Engels, how and why does ideology foster false consciousness?
Well, my uncles explain that ideology is the set of assumptions or beliefs that a group or society holds to be true. These beliefs influence the way that a person within a society behaves. Ideology is a big social force that impacts the political views, sense of self, and personal disposition that a person has. Ideology is construed by bourgeoisie. The bourgeoisie have kept the rest of society happy under false consciousness, that everyone is being treated equally. False consciousness is when an individual or society willfully engage and participate in their own oppression. They are fooling us so well that we don't even know there is a conflict between the classes. I mean, just look at Peter Actionist backstage.
What are you looking at? President Snowheim said it's cool, so I think it's cool.
See what I mean? Members of the subordinate class like him suffer a false consciousness in that their mental representations of social relations around them systematically conceal or obscure the realities of subordination, exploitation, and domination those relations embody. These people suffer the most out of this because they believe they are getting the best deal out of this outcome. Ideology gives the bourgeoisie a way to justify all the horrible things they have done to the rest of us. They have misled the 6 food groups in thinking that what they have given us is what they deserve. The very concept of the Hunger Games is a way to control us by fear. They have led us to believe that the reason the Hunger Games exist is because they can't trust the rest of the food groups to not go to war again. Through fear and mistrust, they oppress the 6 food groups, and I am done with it.
Alright, last question. How and why does exploitation and alienation emerge and impact class as Marx and Engels illustrated?
Exploitation asserts that the institution of private property allows the privileged few to reap the benefits of the laborers of others without needing to contribute anything by way of effort, ability, or labor. People in power exploit others by taking unfair advantage of them by putting them into harsh work conditions with low-paying wage. Alienation is defined as the social psychological feeling of estrangement from work, from fellow human beings, and from the self. My uncle Marx believes that this alienation is rooted in the capitalist mode of production itself. Work becomes an enforced activity, something done for the paycheck alone. The worker becomes alienated from all aspects of labor, beginning with the product that they are producing. Not only is the individual alienated from the products he produces, but from the production process itself. And this is extremely important because we are defined by our work. I too was part of this system. I was controlled by exploitation and alienation from the work. Our food group was put under serious conditions that were forced to work night and day, mining for the bourgeoisie. They demand the resources to make the Hunger Games just to eat exploited foods who are working for them. I was forced in an assembly line of mining and working constantly on one boring job that I started to lose my life. I started to think, who am I? We are all being controlled by the powerful bourgeoisie, and we are starting to lose the identity because of it.
Well, a big thank you to all our guests is in order for answering our questions. We hope you enjoy the interviews. Stay tuned for the next 395th Hungry Games. I'm Caesar Salad, signing out to you.